the Siegel brothers. Dr. Ricky Siegel is a certified sex therapist and educator, and his brother Larry Siegel is a clinical sexologist and certified sexuality educator. The Siegel brothers are here to answer all your questions about sex and sexuality that you are unsure of who to ask, including questions you didn't even know you had. They will also welcome guests around the globe to talk about a wide variety of topics and issues within the fascinating world of sexuality. Thank you for joining us and welcome to Sex Talk.
Here we are. Not hearing anything, but I'm assuming that we're probably on.
We are live. And I will say hello and welcome to Sex Talk with the Siegel brothers. My name is Ricky Siegel, and I'm a certified sex therapist.
And I'm Larry Siegel, a clinical sexologist and certified sexuality educator.
And we are the Siegel brothers.
Yes, we are. We probably should have said that in unison in a very shticky kind of way.
Right. We thank you for joining us. We're on the radio in South Florida on 95.3, 96.3 AM radio, and on 740 and 1470 AM.
Yes.
And we're live on Facebook if you're joining us there. Hello.
Hello, guy. Nice to see you, or actually glad you can see us.
That's right. We're so grateful for the technology that enables us to continue doing what we do while sheltering at home.
Yes, indeed.
So this is our weekly opportunity to mute our phones and get our technology straight.
My phone was muted.
And talk about sex.
Yes. I was just trying to see if I can hear, because I can't hear anything coming out of the computer.
It's very...
so I was going to see if we can coordinate with that with hearing something on Facebook.
It's very disorientating.
Yes, it is. It is very disorienting. So we'll just have to go by sort of timing, keep an eye on things that way.
Yes.
And assume that you can all hear us and see us okay. So
the call-in number to the station, if you'd like to join the conversation, is 888-565-1470.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And you can definitely get us
the
through
radio
Facebook
station,
as well.
And they will get us.
Yes, hopefully. All right, hopefully we're going to make everything work. So again, like with everything else going on, we are living in these times where we have to make adjustments and things are not the way they are. And again, how many people, the source of the anxiety, the source of the frustration is that things are not the way they are or the way they are supposed to be. And we have to accept that.
Yeah. There was a scary statistic in the news that for the first time ever, more than 50% of calls to abuse hotlines were from minors.
Yeah.
And I think we talked a little bit about it last week. One of the, I think, little thought through consequence. I mean, really, it's not like there's a choice, but there's this consequence that needs more attention, that many, many, many people are just vulnerable to abuse just simply by being sequestered.
Yep.
Intimate partners, kids,
there's no place to go. We've talked about this quite a bit before. There's no place to go. And when frustrations build, there's really no room for them, except out sometimes. When people really are kind of shut in and, people have their triggers are a little thinner. They're a little bit more reactive.
Well, stress turns the heat up on whatever stress was already there. Mm-hmm. So if a relationship is strained, and now this, right? If kids are driving their parents crazy only in the 3 or 4 hours between school and bedtime, and now it's 24/7, they're driving them exponentially crazier.
Exactly. I mean, it's like living with the why. Why? I mean, it's like, again, the poking and poking. And, I get that, whether you're with kids, whether you're with elderly parents, whether you are with extended family, whether you are just with roommates. People are in closed quarters are going to step on each other's toes. There's going to be friction. So I think less than how do we avoid friction, it's how do we manage and how do we diffuse friction.
And as we go into the second month of what will undoubtedly not be the last, hopefully people are finding some kind of patterns. Right. I think it's sad, but needs to be said that this, quote, transition to online education, as if it's so simple, whether we're talking about Harvard or elementary school, teachers and students and parents have just been thrown. Figure it out. Nobody has a clue. I heard today that some college students, I don't know where, were threatening of demanding their money back or suing because this is not the education they paid for. That's right. $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a year to have a professor trying to figure out how to use Zoom. Right. And I'm glad you're saying that as well, because it's easy, and a lot of the things that we hear, it's, we talk about the parents are the ones that are not really able to make that adjustment, and they have to now be homeschooling their kids. But so much of this issue is that nobody is prepared for this. And I think the biggest crime that most teachers have no idea how to work online. Most teachers really cannot use online resources and do teaching online. And the other side of that too is, and for all of those of you that really do like that bit of rhetoric, that this generation, millennials and Xers, Zers, that they grew up on their phones and they're so technologically oriented and they're so into technology. They're not. They're great gamers. Yeah, exactly. Maybe even hackers. They can play games and they know how to stay up all night tweeting and Snapchatting and TikToking and doing all that nonsense. They don't know how to send an email. Uploading assignments and dealing with Blackboard. Attaching a file. Things like that. Exactly. The simplest, most basic technological things. No, they don't know how to do that. So we are just really, and I think this is a systemic issue, we're just ill prepared for a technological world, no matter how much that's supposedly been front and center in our lives. So we have to do a little bit better on that. The systems and the education is going to be different as well. People in education do and have for a long time like to cite studies that say the learning in an online environment is no different than the learning in a classroom environment. And when you're talking about words on a page, and you're talking about parroting back information, that is absolutely true. But the real education, the real learning is kind of between the lines. It's not on the screen. It's the interaction. It's the critical thinking. Yes. The really synthesizing that information. And that's really, really difficult to get in an online environment. And, I think both teachers and a lot of therapists are learning with some surprise that people think, oh, what a luxury, sleep, working from home. I take off my bathrobe and put on a shirt and go into my home office. Everyone is working more, and longer hours and harder. Teachers are working so much longer trying to figure this out and do lesson plans and adapt all of this. Absolutely. And therapists, even I noticed that what little structure I do have in my life was framed a little bit by having office hours. And now I just look, there's an opening, and shoehorning this, and I need to schedule time off for myself. And say nothing is happening during these hours. And relationships are framed that way too. Families are framed that way. I had a good conversation today, and somebody asked, how do these couples who are in business together, like couples who own a restaurant, how do they compartmentalize? And I said that's exactly how. They have to say, okay, we're closing the shop. We're taking off our work clothes. We are no longer co-workers. Now we have to be parents. And then when the kids go to bed, we have to take off our parent clothes and be lovers. And if couples who are together 24/7, the good ones have really worked it out.
Yeah,
because that is not easy.
And even, again, quote unquote, the good ones, there's often a lot of difficulties. A lot of studies have been coming out recently about the impact that this sheltering in and coronavirus and really we have to kind of name it as living under this anxiety, living under a prolonged, sustained anxiety.
Yeah.
For some people it might even be trauma, but the impact that can have, it could be positive or negative.
But I do want to make a point that's been coming up all week for me. I think it's important for people to remember that there's a huge distinction between a shelter-at-home order, and I will really refrain from going off on these idiots that are opening up salons and bowling alleys. Yeah, everybody go stick your fingers in holes and have a good time. There's perfect time for that, right? The difference between shelter-at-home order, which is a community effort for everybody to help curtail this so we don't overwhelm our healthcare system, versus quarantine. People think they're being made to be quarantined. You quarantine if you are sick, if you have recently been sick, or if you think you're exposed to someone who's sick. Quarantine means you do not leave your house for at least 14 days. But I hear all week long, I've been hearing about people. I heard a woman told me she hasn't left her apartment in 36 days. I said, why? Go for a walk.
Right.
That's craziness. We're not quarantined. It's not like that Dustin Hoffman movie where people are hanging sheets out the window so they know when to pick up the bodies, the airborne virus killing half the population. Go outside.
Right.
You don't need a mask to go outside.
Right. It's not like a nuclear holocaust.
If you're going to go into Walmart, you need a mask and to stay 6 feet away from other people.
Well,
right.
Oh,
Physical distancing.
Yeah.
Not necessarily social distancing, but I know what you had an experience in Walmart.
I did have an experience in Walmart.
I should have picked another store.
Yes, you should have. But again, on that point too, because this is, it really is voluntary, and this really is about consideration. And I think it's really important that people understand that the whole mask wearing thing when you're out in public, especially if you're in a grocery store where there really isn't any social distancing, people pretend when they're in line to be standing 6 feet apart. Right. But how many people are walking in and out in close quarters, up and down all the aisles?
Of course.
So I mean, that really is just this sort of false picture that people are kind of thinking about. Yeah. But if you do not go into a store out in public wearing a mask, you are an idiot. Right? Plain and simple. And you're selfish and you're inconsiderate and you are a public health risk. The whole mask thing is not just to protect you. So let me also to speak to you idiots that are out in the Midwest. You're protesting my body, my choice.
Oh,
you're the most anti-choice person that has ever lived.
That's the most
my body, my choice, because you don't want to wear a mask. It's not just to protect you. It's to protect the rest of us. That is this joint venture that we are all in together.
It's like those knuckleheads that led to resurgence of measles, right? These anti-vaxxers
That's right.
Put other people's kids at risk.
Exactly right.
And measles was practically gone, and nope, back again.
Right.
Because selfish.
And you people that are using my body, my choice and calling this a choice issue, there's a special place in hell for you.
That should be illegal, right?
Yeah.
I remember I was making this point in a discussion with pharmacists about their role in contraception and reproductive health and the whole bit. This point we've made several times. It's come up in ethics classes and around language, like especially the Choose Life license plates.
Right.
That Florida is the only state.
Oh, the hypocrisy
that came up. That was when Jeb was our governor. The only state. Every other state that had a Choose Life license plate, the state Supreme Court said no. That's crossing the line. The state doesn't get involved in issues like that, especially such volatile, hot-button issues, except ours. when Jeb said, "What? This abortion? No, this has nothing to do with abortion. This is about promoting adoption."
Right.
So it's not unconstitutional.
Right.
That's not a controversial issue for the state. So choose life as the rallying cry for adoption. So my goof,
Right. By the way, in the state with like the highest death penalty rate.
Yeah. Choose life.
Yeah.
Right. Remember when Jeb and George were racing?
Yeah, they had like a contest.
Who could kill the most convicts? But one of those intentionally provocative analogies we love to make. What if I went into the bleach business?
Yeah.
And decided to rent space on a billboard and have, Ricky's bleach, white power, Ricky's bleach.
Right.
And then look all puzzled when people want to get offended and call me racist. Say, what? Right. No, I'm selling bleach. This is not racist. There's nothing. Until some old pharmacist came up and said that, Comet used to have commercials.
Yeah,
with a knight on a white horse. And
I remember those.
And it flashed white power.
I remember those.
Oh, my Lord.
And there used to be a restaurant called Sambo's.
Black Sambo's, actually. These people who have the cojones to claim to their choice, their body, to claim a rallying cry of something they've fought tooth and nail to tear down in this country.
Yes.
This is one of the outrages in this week's news, right?
It's the worst kind of cultural appropriation.
Oh my God! These southern states that have banned abortions during using Corona as a ridiculous pretense to close abortion providers, but guess who's not closed? All the pro-life centers are still open.
And you will see that may not last, all right? Because again, what has just recently happened in Alabama, all right? When they tried to do that, the Alabama Supreme Court basically overturned that, ruled it unconstitutional.
Hallelujah.
So now that at least Alabama has done that, and I don't think I've ever thought I would say this, but thank you, Alabama.
Really?
Once Alabama has, now that Alabama's done, hopefully there's a precedent.
Alabama gave us Debbie Gibson.
That's right. That's right. I hope you're well, staying safe. That is the craziness, and hopefully it's going to start to backfire.
And there's been a renewed enthusiasm and resurgence in clinic protesters blatantly disregarding public health guidelines for crowds and distancing and masks and everything else, still taunting and harassing women. And even condoms can't get listed as essential. Companies are having problems getting condoms delivered because non-essential items have this 30-day shipping window. And who can wait a month for their condoms? Well, it's a health item as critical as medical and cleaning supplies.
Except that our federal government has now pretty much illegitimized sex and considered not important, because if you are a sex worker, if you're in the adult film industry, if anything that has any
even a legal sex
to do with what you're doing with a legal business, if it has any even whiff of sex to it, no pun intended, then you are specifically and by statute, let's be clear, the words are in there, excluded from the CARES Act money. You, no matter how legitimate your business is, if it has anything to do with sex, you are specifically excluded. In fact, the phrase is, if your business is of a prurient sexual nature. Right? When's the last time we heard that word prurient, except in the legal definition of obscenity?
Of course.
Right? That's the last time.
It's like such a 19th century word. Who says prurient? I don't even know how to pronounce it. P-R-U-R. Prurient interest. Appealing.
My mouth is not supposed to be able to say that.
Appealing to the lecherous, lascivious instinct.
Right, lascivious.
Who decides?
Right. Which again, sexual arousal is lascivious.
Yeah, right. Of course. Remember? A lot of people
Everybody
don't know.
all of a sudden grows a little mustache that they twirl.
A lot of people don't know that legs on furniture had to be covered
up for a while.
It was provocative. Legs on a couch.
I think we're done.
Really?
I think we're done. Once furniture becomes sexually offensive, and it's not even in the shape of a genital, then we're done.
And of course, as usual, our time is going way too quickly. There were just a couple of sexy, sex-related, not very sexy, but headlines that I think will be a good jumping off point. Oh, well, first of all, of course, with every crisis, there's pond scum that are going to rise up and look. There was reports of landlords extorting sex from tenants who are unemployed and can't pay their rent.
Absolutely.
Because, of course, the $1,200 that the government sent lasted so long for everybody who got it.
People have been doing that with care packages, food packages that they've been getting them from a church, and then turn around and say, hey, you want that? You pay me this way.
Yeah, God. I guess this is happy news for some. Sex toy sales are skyrocketing. 5 of the big major industries are reporting upsurges in sales in March. And of course, I think we mentioned this last week, and we should spend what little time we have left talking about why is coronavirus killing my sex drive, and what couples can do.
But I think let's to me it's bigger than does it or doesn't it, right? In terms of kill it or make it better, because again we can see, here's the headline, why is corona killing my sex drive, but the headline right before that was sex toy sales are skyrocketing.
So there's a sex drive. It might not be directed towards the person you're stuck with 24/7 and
but I think
sheltered.
This is where I think the issue of sort of sustained anxiety. Right? Look at something like a blizzard or even an earthquake, or something that hits big and it is over pretty quickly. That often leads to an increase in sex after that. But what we're seeing right now, this sustained anxiety. Right.
There's not going to be a corona baby boom.
No. I think that's going to be one of those other false promises. I don't think we're going to see that either. But I think when we look at one of the studies I saw recently, that 24% of couples saying that this sheltering in is having a positive aspect on their sex lives, but almost 50% says that it has a negative impact. Now, what I'm more interested in, hearing your opinion about with our time left, is what about those mixed couples where one partner has an increase, maybe their response to the anxiety and the stress and the sheltering, it is an increase in sexual desire, but the other partner is responding the other way. So how does a couple navigate that different, because to me that's more than just desire discrepancy, because this is in this overall context.
Obviously, that's got to be next week's show. We can't answer that in a minute. They got to work it out. They have to negotiate, right? Look, if it's, why is it so easy to see if people are in business together and their business is failing, that the appropriate action is not to just sit there and go, right, and watch it fail. The appropriate action is to do something to fix it so that it succeeds. Why is that different from relationships? Right? Work it out, negotiate. Everybody doesn't get everything they want, but they have to be happy. Right.
And it's about resolution, not about who gets their way.
Right. And these quickie little tidbits of advice. Like if one partner is not in the mood and another is feeling randy, instead of getting pouty, I'm talking especially to guys, instead of getting pouty, oh man, you want to have sex with me, and then stalking down to the computer to the den or the office to log on to some online sexy material. What about saying, okay, you're not in the mood, that's cool. Do you mind if I just lie next to you and just take care of myself? Right? We don't need wedges coming between. I know we're going to get the signal, and I just wanted to...
Although I'm not sure how we're going to hear it.
Yeah, I know. So. I'm watching for a text.
Okay.
But, I just wanted to make sure before we get the message that the music is playing and we're running out of time, to let people know that we will be leaving terrestrial radio and sticking to the online stuff. So we will still be here next Friday at 7 and every Friday for Sex Talk with the Siegel Brothers, but no longer on the radio in South Florida after this week. We'll be on Facebook and YouTube and podcasting to wherever your favorite platform to get podcasts happens to be. And we just want to send out a big hug and special thank you to our incredible producer, Freddie Santori.
Yeah, thank you, Freddie.
AMP2TV Productions.
And Ken,
Linda,
thank you.
and Ken and Dawn. Mwah.
Yes,
Mwah.
all of you.
It's been real fun working with you. So join us right here on our Facebook page if you're on Facebook, and for our AM radio listeners, why don't you go out and buy a computer and have somebody show you how to upload the Facebook.
Yeah, join the 20th century.
I'm just playing, but we'll see you online, and thank you for joining us, and think sexy thoughts, and stay safe, and stay sane, and stay home.
Yeah,
that's such a sacrifice.
We will get through this. We got to keep remembering that. All right, have a great night, everybody. Be well.
You've been listening to Sex Talk with the Siegel Brothers. Join us on WNN 1470 AM and 95.3 FM, or watch live streaming video at AMP2TV Productions on Facebook, or look for the shows on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope you'll join us again next week.